Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. In this presentation, I will be discussing the incentives and referendums processes in Arizona, two essential components of the state's direct democracy. I'll define each process, explain how they work, and discuss their roles in shaping laws and empowering citizens. I'll also compare the two, examine their pros and cons, and explain how they align with the principles of direct democracy as outlined in the Arizona Constitution. These mechanisms are critical for enhancing political participation and ensuring that the government remains accountable for all people. Additionally, I'll integrate insight from the scholars such as Gerber, Mulberry to ensure the comprehensive views of these policies and processes. I'm now going to do the basic definitions. Let's begin with the basic definitions of what incentive and referendum is. An incentive is a process that allows citizens to propose new laws and constitutional amendments. As McClory 2010 explains, it's a direct means of citizens to influence policies without waiting for the legislation to act. This process begins with the collection of signatures from registered voters, and if enough valid signatures are gathered, the proposal is placed on the ballot for a public vote. It's a majority approves, the proposal becomes a law. Now, a referendum. A referendum, on the other hand, allows citizens to approve or object laws passed by the state legislatives. This process is typically integrated when a law is deemed controversial, or when citizens want to ensure that a law reflects the will of all people. Like an incentive, a referendum also involves gathering signatures, and once verified, it is placed on the ballot for a vote. As McGlobey, 1984, implies that referendums are a critical tool for checking legislative powers and ensuring that the legislative body remains responsive to the public's desires. Next, we are going to talk about how incentives and referendums are created. Now, let's look at how these two processes are created. For an incentive, the process begins with a group of citizens who propose a new law or constitutional amendment. To move forward, they must gather at least a set number of signatures from the registered voters, which is based on a percentage of voters cast in the most recent election. Once these signatures are collected and verified, the proposed law or amendment is placed on the ballot, and voters have a final say. This process reflects a key feature of direct democracy, and it bypasses the legislative's entirety. In contrast, a referendum process starts when citizens or lawmakers wish to challenge a law passed by the legislators. A petition must be circulated and signed by a significant number of voters to place a law on the ballot. If the referendum gathers enough support, the public is given the opportunity to either approve or reject the law, according to Cleary 2010. Referendums can be seen as a way for citizens to act as a safeguard against the laws they feel that do not reflect the will of the majority. Comparing and contrasting incentives and referendums. Although both processes allow for citizens' participation in lawmaking, they serve different functions. An incentive empowers citizens to propose entirely new laws and amendments, whereas referendums is a tool to approve or reject laws that have already been created. Gerber states and argues that incentives often reflect power in segments and allow citizens to issue that they may be overlooked by elected officials, while referendums serve as a mechanism or accountability, allowing voters to change laws that they perceive to be harmful or unrepresentative. In both processes, signatures gathering is essential, and the public vote ultimately determines the outcome. However, incentives are proactive, while referendums are reactive. This distinction highlights the different roles these processes play in the direct democracy. Now, let's explore the advantages and disadvantages of each process. Starting with incentives. One of the primary benefits that they give to the public is the power to bypass the legislative and directly propose laws. This can be particularly beneficial when the legislative is slow to act on pushing issues. As McCleary notes, incentives provide an avenue for grassroots movements to influence policies and enact change on issues that might not otherwise receive legislative attention. Incentives allow citizens to bring issues to the forefront of the political disclosure. However, there are drawbacks. Incentives often require significant financial resources to organize, particularly when gathering the necessary signatures and running an effort campaign, according to Gerber 1999. Additionally, incentives bypass the typical legislative process of review and debate, which means poorly crafted and overstimulated laws can make it to the ballot, I found an article by Moberly, 1984. Now, let's turn to referendums. One of the key advantages is that they provide a direct mechanism for citizens to challenge and overturn laws by the legislative. Referendums help keep the legislative group accountable, ensuring that the laws reflect the public's preferences. In this way, referendums serve as the corrective tool in the demographic process. On the downside, referendums can be influenced by well-funded special interest groups who may dominate the political debate through advertisement and campaigns. This can lead to a situation where most vocal or financially powerful groups sway the outcome of what happens, and even the majority of the vote is not fully informed. Now we're going to talk about how incentives and referendums support the direct democracy. Both incentives and referendums are essential to the concept of direct democracy, where the people are a direct role in shaping the laws and policies to go on. The Arizona Constitution provided for these mechanisms reflects the benefits or beliefs that powers should ultimately reside with the people, according to McCleary, 2010. By allowing citizens to propose laws or challenge the existing ones, both incentives and referendums expand the demographic process beyond the representative government. As Gerber points out, these processes ensure that the citizens' voices are heard, but actively shape the political public policies. In Arizona, these forms of democracy ensure that elected representatives are responsive to the desires of the people, as voters can intervene directly when they believe that the legislator is not acting in the best interest. To wrap it all up, in conclusion, referendums and incentives in Arizona are an integral component of direct democracy. These mechanisms provide citizens with the tools to propose new laws or challenge the existing ones, like I said before, ensuring that government remains responsive and accountable. While each process has its advantages and disadvantages, these provide valuable opportunities for citizens' participation in the legislative process. The Arizona Constitution inclusion of these tools reflects the deep commitment to empower the people and uphold the principles of direct democracy. Thank you for taking your time to listen, and I hope this has helped you clarify how the Arizona incentive and referendum process works.